My name is Lloyd J. Jerry nickname Silverman, and today's date is June 21st, 2015.
Okay. Tell me what you know or remember of your parents, where they were from, and if you know anything about your grandparents, where they were from.
My mother was born in a little town in Lithuania called Kretinga, and my dad was born just outside of Berlin in an area at the time of the start of the 20th century known as Upper Silesia. And at approximately the age of 1, they moved to Berlin where he grew up.
And your grandparents, do you remember anything? Or know anything about them? Nothing?
The only thing I know about my mother's father was that he was a Orthodox rabbi in Lithuania at the time of her birth.
Now, how did they come to the States? And specifically, how did they get to Dallas?
My mother had an older brother of some 18 years senior who had made his way to Dallas back in 1905, 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that time frame, and established himself here. And at some point, as the First World War was starting, my mother, her twin sister, her older sister, and her mom started moving around Poland, Lithuania area, and my uncle, her brother, somewhat lost track of them and then left Dallas to go to Europe to try and find them. After a period of time, he did, and he brought them to Dallas, and that was approximately, and I don't know exact dates, 1914, 1915, 1916, somewhere in that time frame.
How did he pick Dallas, though? Why on earth Dallas, Texas? Did he have a connection?
I have no
No
idea.
idea. Okay. So then they were here. And you were born here and raised here?
Yes, but that's bypassing a lot of
Oh,
stories.
okay. Go ahead. Go back.
My dad grew up in Berlin, and as a young teen was apprenticed to one of the largest banks in Berlin, where my grandfather was good friends with the bank owner. And he was utilized because of his good memory and math skills in international banking, international commerce, if you will. And then as Hitler was starting to come into power, some of the details I simply don't know, but he got the family out of Berlin to Johannesburg. And my mother grew up in Dallas, went to high school, graduated with honors, started working as a bookkeeper, and then in the mid-late 30s, she wanted to go to Johannesburg to visit her favorite aunt and uncle that had also migrated out of Europe to Johannesburg. She was there for the summer, and about 2 weeks before she was due to leave, my dad's parents threw a party, invited her aunt and uncle, and she came along and met my dad. And it was a very fast romance. They were married in 2 weeks legally so she could stay there, and then religiously 3 months later. At the time, my dad owned what was known as a bazaar, which is the same thing as the old 5 and 10 cent store. Mom was a bookkeeper in the back, Dad was a salesman in the front, and they lived happily ever after for 3 years, and then she got pregnant with me. I was conceived in Johannesburg. Wanted to come back to her family in Dallas. They did, and through New York, came to Dallas, and I was born here in Dallas in May of 41.
So technically you're related to the Johannesburg South African Jewish community that all came to Dallas.
Well,
somewhere through the...
I attended a network luncheon about 3 years ago, and there was a guest motivational speaker from Johannesburg. And after a very well-presented delivery of his presentation, I approached him and told him that I had been conceived in Johannesburg and born in Dallas. He says, "So you're a true native African American." Just that quick. So it was a nice laugh, and I get to share it when I tell my story.
What neighborhood did you grow up in?
Yes.
Bunch of everywhere? What's your favorite place that you have some good childhood memories of?
Favorite place that I have childhood memories of? I guess living on the corner of Inwood and Cedar Springs before Inwood was widened. They widened it to a 3-lane divided road while we lived there, and that was in 1954 to 1958. It's when I started having my paper routes and kind of exploiting my independence to have my own sources of funds and be my own young man.
What schools did you go to? Elementary, and then it would be junior high and high school.
Okay, need to back up a little and state that at the age of about 3 and a half, we moved to LA until I was about 6 and a half, and I started first grade in LA. Then when we came back to Dallas, I went to Reingold Elementary, which is out near Garland, PV and Garland Road area. Then the 4th and 5th grade, we moved off of just block north of Maple Avenue off of Hudnall, and I went to the 4th and 5th grade at Maple Lawn Elementary. And then we moved to the Inwood Lovers Lane area, and I went to the 6th and 7th grade at Longfellow Elementary. And then we moved back down towards Inwood and Cedar Springs. We lived actually on the northwest corner. There was 4 two-story duplexes, and we lived in the corner one downstairs. And that's the years I alluded to, between 1954 and 1958. And I went to Rush Junior High, which was right across the street, for the 8th and 9th grade, and then I went to North Dallas High School for finish my career in high school.
What are you especially proud of in your high school years that you did, or a project you worked on, or something that you fulfilled?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Don't have anything that comes to mind at this particular point.
Well, something was grooming you, I can say, for your later years of your
Paper routes.
volunteerism.
Paper routes.
Paper routes, okay.
I excelled, won highest career achievement awards, and every time I brought in a new subscription, I got a movie pass, and I used to walk around with 10, 15 movie passes in my pocket at all the time.
Good. Now, did you go into college?
Not till I came out of the service.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your service years, and then after that.
From high school, I went into the Army. I volunteered. I spent 3 years in the Army in the Signal Corps. And there was times where I excelled there also. And I came back and took a hiatus for about a month, and then started looking for work, and I ended up working for E.F. Hutton, the big brokerage house, for about 9 months, and saw myself in the rut that I always felt I didn't want to be in. And went back to actually business school.
Mm-hmm.
There was a business college downtown called Ron's.
Is it still there?
I doubt it. And I started taking accounting courses, and it was at that time that I had left Hutton and went back to school and was working part-time. Dad said, "I can't cover you for health insurance because you're too old. You need to get your own." So a couple of weeks later, I did get a flyer in the mail from the big Aetna Life promoting their health products. And I responded, and the agent came out, and made a presentation, and do you have any questions? And I made the presentation right back to him. He said, you need to talk to my supervisor, which I did. And December the 12th of 1962, I signed my first agent contract with the Big Etna. And when I left them 3.5 years later, it was March 1st of 66, but in 65 I was their number 26th biggest health producer in the United States. They had 5,000 career agents at the time.
Only 26th?
Only 26. If I'd stayed on, I might have made it, got the number down, but. And that was the start of my insurance career.
And your math skills, I take it, came in handy.
Very much so.
Very much, right. So tell me a little bit about how you yourself, how your family grew. How did you meet your wife, etc.? Could be.
How did I meet my wife? Well, I need to inject that before I met my present wife. I had been married previously, and it was an unsuccessful marriage, but I did manage to acquire a daughter out of that process. And when that marriage ended, I became involved with the JCC of Dallas sponsored singles group called The Group, became very active, and within a year and a half I was president. And as I was vice president heading towards presidency, I met my present wife, and we dated for 3 years, and we were married in August of 63, and it'll be 32 years this coming August.
Mazel tov. Wonderful.
And we now have a married daughter of our own, and life is good.
What kind of activities did you find yourself involved in through your adult life? Besides the JCC, what else?
Besides the JCC.
Besides that.
I was involved with the Richardson JCs through most of the 70s, from 73 to, or 71 to 80, and worked on many projects, and was what they called at the time IDVP. I was the individual development vice president, and encouraged members to improve themselves. And I was a instructor in goal planning, goal setting, and things of that nature. There were other things that I did during the course of my JC tenured time that I excelled at. And we used to have the JCC Richardson Community Fair, which was held on the northeast corner of Reingold and the Arapahoe for many years. And we'd have raffles for large prizes of one kind or another. And when I put my mind to it, one particular year I was the #1 seller of raffle tickets and won a free weekend at a hotel chain of my choosing, or the time of my choosing. So I've had periodic spurts of excellence, if you will, where I exceeded in sales and of one type or another.
What about Jewish life? What were you involved in, and what are you still involved in?
Well, that's a horse of a different color.
Well, how about synagogue affiliation? Start with that.
Well, I was either the last or one of the very last bar mitzvahs at the old Sheriff Israel in South Dallas before they moved to their current location off Douglas and Park Lane, or Douglas and Walnut Hill. And I decided after my bar mitzvah that I'd had enough of Judaism for a while, and so I did not participate in anything for quite some years after. And in my previous marriage, when we had a daughter, we spasmodically went to various temples around just to remember we were Jewish and to hear Jewish words in Hebrew and songs and what have you. But there was no affiliation, no particular involvement. When my present wife, Lana Ray, and I had our daughter, Erin, we, as she started growing older, we both wanted her to have a Jewish education. So we started going back around the circuit and trying to find a home. By the way, when Lana Ray and I were first married, we were a member of Anshai Emet, which is now Anshai Torah. And so we had some affiliation with Judaism and or the congregation, but nothing to speak of per se. And it was at that point that Lana Ray had her adult B'nai Mitzvah, which we were both very proud of her doing. Then, after a couple of years there, we kind of drifted apart again, and then we had our daughter. Well, let me back up, that's not quite true. As it turned out, while we were members of Anshai Emet, my dad passed away, and he was the first death that had occurred at Anshai Emet. And then a year later, our daughter was born, and our daughter was the first birth at Anshai Emet. And taking up parenting life, we kind of drifted apart because we were living around LBJ and Abrams Road, and Anshai Emet at the time was north of Independence and Plano, and it was a pretty long haul with a baby. So we kind of drifted away for a while, and then Erin started growing, and Lana Ray was very diligent and good about exposing her to Jewish holidays and rituals. We started looking some more, and we ended up at Temple Shalom, where Erin, starting around the 4th grade, entered into Sunday school and got more exposure to Judaism's history, processes. Erin was bat mitzvahed at Temple Shalom, and she was married there January of last year. In the process of getting Erin involved in Sunday school, I heard about cooking for the homeless once a month in the temple kitchen, and I became involved in that. And then I heard about the Torah study on Saturday mornings, and I started going there by myself, and finally I encouraged Lana Ray to join me. And so for the last 14, 15 years, we rarely miss either a Friday night service or a Saturday morning Torah study, except when there's another commitment that we have to do. I got involved with Brotherhood, and I was blessed because of my activity of being the co-Brotherhood Man of the Year 2000-2001.
Very good. Currently, are you active in any civic organizations that you can think of that you're part of?
Yes. I'm an active member of NAIFA, which is N-A-I-F-A, which is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. I was on the board of directors there for a year. I have been treasurer of our homeowners association. Currently I'm parliamentarian of our homeowners association. I joined the Dallas Jewish War Veterans about 5 years ago. Within about 6 months, the quartermaster passed away, and they asked me if I would step in, which I did. And then I started getting groomed for being commander. And within about a year and a half, less than 2 years of becoming a member of Dallas Jewish War Veterans, I became the commander, and fairly active there, involved in a number of projects. I chair 2 fairly major projects now, one being the Christmas Day Mitzvah program, where we go visit wounded warriors who too sick or hurt to go travel on Christmas, live too far away to make the travel, or too far away for family to come to them. So we get a group of volunteers and we get local merchants to contribute goodies. We go into pre-arranged wards and rooms and we greet them and the wounded veterans and wish them a Merry Christmas and tell them we've got some goodies, what would they like, and respond accordingly. And I told the Post that as long as I'm able, I would chair that project. I've chaired it now for several years, and first year I chaired it, I got double the number of volunteers that had previously volunteered for that project. Another major project that the Post does or has done for 20 plus years is the Thanksgiving homeless dinner, homeless veterans dinner. And it's held Thursday before Thanksgiving, and for a number of years, as I said, we've done that. The last few years, going back like 13, 14, we find a decreasing amount of homeless veterans participating due to so many other organizations trying to provide a similar type of event for them. And what we found is that we had an increasing influx of staff people from the VA hospital. That's where we were holding it, coming for a free meal. And I don't blame them coming for a free meal, but that was not our mission, not our goal, and not the reason that we got many volunteers and donations. So in January of this year, at a board meeting, we decided to stop doing the homeless veterans Thanksgiving dinner, and we replaced it with a summertime barbecue for homeless veterans. And I'm chairing that project, and that'll take place in about 4 weeks on July 16th. That'll be the first annual, and we'll go from there.
That sounds like fun. Tell me a little bit about how Dallas has changed since you were a child growing up here.
Good question. I used to like to go downtown Dallas, and I was about somewhere between 11 and 12 years of age. My parents allowed me to go downtown by myself. And I used to take the bus, and I had a friend that lived in South Dallas at the time. No, he lived, well, wherever he lived. He'd take the bus downtown, and we'd meet, and we'd walk up and down and pick a movie to go to. And downtown Dallas was thriving in those days. It was busy, it was vibrant, it was alive, and with a lot of old stores, and I used to be familiar with all of them, and of course they're all since gone.
Except Neiman Marcus.
Except Neiman Marcus. And I particularly liked the Palace Theater because it was big, and it was like a famous auditorium in New York. I can't think of the name of it right now. Carnegie Hall. It was kind of like a Carnegie Hall.
Oh.
It was large and it was ornate, and they had this second or third largest organ in the world come up out of the floor during intermission. There'd be a guy playing, and had 4, 5, 6 rows of keys and all kind of buttons and switches, and it was always exciting to be there when that activity occurred. Suburbs were, I guess, for a youngster, kind of like any other suburb. You become familiar with it and comfortable with it, and then somebody comes along and tears down something and builds something new, and the landscape starts changing. As I said earlier, I lived on the corner of Inwood and Cedar Springs when they widened Inwood to 3 lanes divided. And I remember when they topped out the then Republic National Bank building with this tree, you could almost see it from where we lived. Just a lot of old memories like that. I could be talking for hours if I start really reiterating all the different changes I saw. One of the things that's remained relatively the same is the Miracle Mile of Lover's Lane, where the Inwood Theater still is, but of course it's totally different from when I grew up. And one of 2 other shopping areas that were relatively the same would be the Lover's Lane and Hillcrest, can't think of the name of this right now. And then the Village Shopping Center in Mockingbird and Preston Road. That's
Snyder Plaza
Snyder Plaza on the, yes.
by SMU. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's been relatively the same. Yeah, there's been owners changed many times over, the stores changed, the names changed, but the buildings remain the same. They haven't torn them down and built skyscrapers or anything like that. It's just, it's still old memories that are good.
What are you, if you can pinpoint it, what are you most proud of in your life so far?
This woman right here, my wife, Lana Ray, and our daughter, and of course my other daughter.
That's good.
I'm very proud of the fact that as I have seasoned with age, that I have developed a much keener sense of helping others. And it doesn't matter if it's the old lady trying to get across the street to helping wounded warriors and things of that nature. It's my sense of giving back, because I'm certainly not a rich man, but you know, we're comfortable and feel good about my contribution back to society, as I think everybody should do.
Before we end, can you think of anyone that was perhaps a role model to you in your life?
A role model to me and my life. If I had time to think about that, I could probably come up with, but nobody jumps into mind right at this particular point.
Okay, all right. Anything else you'd like to add? Say to the people out here?
Anything else I'd like to add?
Or not?
I'm glad that I served my country for 3 years in the service, and I'm very proud of that. It was an excellent experience for a young man at that time in my life. I believe wholeheartedly in all of our freedoms in the United States, and I am really saddened at times by the state of our world affairs and the unnecessary bigotry and hate that fills our society. I wish, other than my volunteerism, there was something more I could do to correct that. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. I know that the longest mile starts with the first step, and yes, I suppose I could find the first step to take in that endeavor, but I'm quite content for the moment to just do the things that I do to help others through my association with Temple Shalom, my activities and the Jewish War Veterans, and people I just meet along the way, put a smile on their face. I'm content with that for now.
And we are too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for asking me to do this.
Sure.